I could travel anywhere in the world and wouldn't have a language barrier. That's why I used to stick purely to mine. And also, for some items, I feel we can get across to people emotionally rather than just rationally. Now, normally in a play, or so often in a play these days, people go to see it and they come out afterwards and say, yes, we totally understand that. He did this, this, and this. But it hasn't moved them. So what we try and do with mime, people often come to a mime show, especially with abstract mime, and say, you know, that was really great, I really enjoyed that. And they say, oh yeah, what was it about? They say, no idea. But the thing is, we don't have to, especially in abstract mime, have to give you a storyline. What we try and do is to get people to emotionally go through a situation. For instance, Prufrock. I don't think any of you could have followed that as a straight storyline, knowing what I was doing. But what happens is you've got to concentrate on what I'm doing with your eyes twice as hard because there's nothing to hear to tell what I'm doing. For instance, if I picked something up here and you looked away and then I put it down, you wouldn't know what that object was when you look back. So later on in the play, when I pick that object up and throw it, it could have been anything, a bomb or anything like that. But because you watch it totally, you see that I go like that, and I drink out of it and put it down. So you then know what that item is. So when I pick it up later on in the play and throw it, you visualise what's happening. So you have to concentrate twice as hard with one sense, your sense of sight. And so you're looking at it like that, and I start to climb up like this. And as I do that, it's really good watching the audience because the whole audience goes. And once I've got you up there, I think, idiots. Then for no reason at all, I might suddenly go, you don't even know what I'm doing it to, but you sit there going, and that's creating something emotionally. Now with that one on Prufrock, for instance, with Prufrock, that's the one where I come out with the bag over my head. I'll tell you how I formulated it to try and get the emotion of the feeling of the poem across to you. First off, we start with life, the energy that life takes. So I decided to use something that gave a lot of energy. So I came on with all the energy that this took and finally established myself. So life has been established. Then what happens in life is we go along and we decide to create our own world, create our own environment. That's the ideal situation. So I built something for myself, a world or whatever you like to think of it as. Then the ideal situation is to be like Atlas and carry this world on our own shoulders, what we've created. In other words, be responsible for our own destiny. So we struggle with our own destiny on our shoulders. Now this is fine, and this is the ideal situation. But soon we hit the bars of reality. And when we hit reality, that's when we discard our ideals and we enter the real world. And the real world is where we start. There's a line in the poem that says, we put on a face to meet the faces that we meet. That's saying how we all put on an image. And the problem is because we all put on an image, when I meet you, all I meet is the image you want to give me, and all you meet of me is my image. So we never get to meet each other. So we put on this face to meet the faces that we meet. That's like when you say hello to somebody, you say, "G'day, how are you?" You don't care how they are. You couldn't give a you-know-what about it, you know. They could be dying for all you care, but you still say, "G'day, how are you?" And they always answer, "Great, how's yourself?" I've been going down the street, I've been throwing up for 3 hours. Some guy says, "G'day, Mick, how are you?" "Oh, great, mate, how's yourself?" So you can imagine if I answered how I really felt. "G'day, Mick, how are you?" "Oh, chundrous, mate, I chucked all over." So we all start putting on an image. And it's really great, like the airline hostess. She's got to have that smile on her face the whole time, you know? Like this. Well, she doesn't so much now, they've got a union. But, you know, she has to try and keep this nice, happy smile on her face. She's been up in that plane for 6 hours. She's exhausted. She's got 1 more hour to go. It's the last leg of the journey. All she wants to do is get home. And there she is, exhausted. And on the last leg of the flight, they pick up a group of footballers that have just won their game. Now we're, oh, great game, mate, yeah, real good, oh. They carry on like this. Oh, you watch this one. And she turns around, and what does she say to them? She says, you're the cheeky one, aren't you? And what would she like to say to them? I'm gonna kill you! But society says we can't do that. We've got to put on the facade. Premier of New South Wales, Mr. Rand, he was great once. He lost his image because we expect to see him in the image of being the politician, which is always serious, you see. He was sitting there talking about the present problem of a rail strike in New South Wales, and a car backfired. And he goes, oh! And all these journalists go, just joking. Well, that was the end of the serious interview. They couldn't interview him seriously after that because he suddenly went from one image to another image. And from then on, all the questions were about what he did before he became a politician, which was an actor. And so they just questioned him about that sort of thing. And we all put on an image. I used to have a great one. I used to put on my leather jacket. I used to put on my flying boots. I used to put my jeans and t-shirt on first. I look pretty silly otherwise, you know. Get arrested. So, I thought it was really cool, and then I go out. The only problem was, I didn't have a motorbike. And being 9 years of age, my mum wouldn't let me have one. You know, I still had the image, and it was even better because my brother's flying boots are about that big, you know. I felt cool, man, you know. We all tend to put on this image, unfortunately. A lot of us get lost in this image and start to believe that our image is us. And that's when we can have problems, because we start to believe our own image and get ourselves into trouble because we usually pick out the image that doesn't really suit us anyway. Because we end up picking an image which we think other people want to see rather than one that comes from ourselves. Then what happens in life is we tend to take our ambitions and climb up the ladder towards our ambitions, and we enter the ultimate goal. And that ultimate goal is adulthood. That's when we're mature people. We no longer ride surfboards or roller skate, and we're very, very, very sedate now. And we mix socially. Hello, how are you? It's good to see you. And we have our cup of tea. And there's a line in the poem which says, I've measured out my life with coffee spoons. It seems pretty stupid to me, doesn't it? You know, 450 coffee spoons. But what that's actually saying is that his life is so boring and so much of a routine that he knows every day he's going to have 2 cups of coffee. Every day without fail, whether he wants them or not, he has 2 cups of coffee. And every day he puts 2 sugars in them. So he knows he uses a teaspoon 4 times a day, every day of his life. And so all he has to do to find out how long he's lived is add up the number of times he's used a teaspoon, coffee spoon, and divide it by 4. That's how boring his life's become. Then there's another line in the poem that says, I'm pinned and wriggling against a wall. So how should I presume? What that's saying is how we all get that feeling in life where we want to do something and everybody puts us down and says, you're not special enough to do that. And we get that feeling of being pinned against a wall. We just want to do something and everybody says, no, you're not good enough. For instance, quickly look at the person next to you without throwing up. Now look back here. Now just imagine that person turning to you and saying, I'm going to be a rock star. Now, what you've just done, without thinking, is just twisted that spear in a little bit more, because there's going to be people out there that have a fantasy of becoming a rock star. And what you've done is laughed at them, and they immediately said, oh, yeah, I don't really want to be a rock star, you know. I know it's just a silly thing in my head. But they might be a very good rock star. But you've just put them down that little bit. And we all do that. That's human nature. is to put the other person down to make ourselves feel better because we're not accomplishing anything. And especially in Australia, one of the main things in Australia is cutting down tall poppies. One of the best comments I've heard, which seems to be an Australian thing, is when somebody, especially millionaires or somebody that we think is a success, and they fail, and everybody turns around in Australia and says, couldn't have happened to a nicer fella. You know, that thing of satisfaction because we've cut down a tall poppy. Well, Mick Jagger was at school once. He once turned around to someone and said, you know, I'm going to be a millionaire, I'm going to be a rock star, become a millionaire, and travel all around the world. And his mate said, sure you are. Mick Jagger's off his face again. But he decided to give it a go. He took that spear out and said, I'm going to give it a go anyway. He didn't have anything to lose. And if you want to give something a go, don't listen to other people. Give it a go. You've got nothing to lose in this world today. Unless you'll start listening to other people that say you're not special enough to do it. And it's amazing the people that will do that. It can even come from your own parents saying, no, you're not special enough to do this thing. If you want to give something a go, give it a go. If I did what people wanted me to do, I'd be selling real estate now. Can you imagine that? Yeah, I've got a lovely little house over here. I make a point. Then what happens in life is we take that pin out, but usually when we take it out, it's too late. The number of people which say, I'm going to do my world trip when I retire. I'm going to go down the Amazon when I retire. Everything's when you retire, instead of doing it when you feel like doing it. Everybody waiting for that great goal, retirement. My father did the same thing. He said, I can't wait, I want a workshop. He never had one while we were kids. Finally, he got himself a little Black & Decker drill, you know. Thought this was great, it's drilling holes everywhere. It looked like a honeycomb in the house, you know. And the other thing which was funny about it, as soon as he bought this little drill, he realised he didn't have a workshop, so he spent $10,000 building a workshop, you know. So he's got this drill. 5 months later, he has a heart attack. He's got this lovely workshop. 5 months later, he has a heart attack, and he's paralysed down one side. And he can't use any of these items anymore. They're just sitting there because he left it till it was too late, rather than using it when he really felt like using them. He started to try and live in his youth when it was too late to live in his youth. Then what happens in life? So many of us end up doing that. We still have our cup of coffee, and we're still putting 2 sugars in it. You might notice the second time I did that, I didn't stir it. Why didn't I stir it? Because it's too strong. Then why don't I put 2 sugars in it? I always have 2 sugars in my cup of coffee. Well, if it's too strong, why do you do that? Because he always does it. It's the routine that is now set in.